Continuing to read There Is a Solution, which is chapter 2 in the AA Big Book. Okay. Um, so where we left off yesterday. Once this malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot. Nope, I went too far back. Okay. So we'll go with the great fact. Okay. So the great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences. And I read the spiritual experience, which is Appendix 2 in the back of the book, and you could look at yesterday's video for that. I'll read it again at some point because it's like a whole hours could be spent on it. It's a really great um, kind of topic for a meeting too. The spiritual experience, and to just discuss that as a group and each person's thoughts and hangups and whatever else it is. So the great fact is this, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could not do for ourselves. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One, to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other, to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort. So if you are seemingly hopeless in your situation, and human aid, doctors, medicine, treatment centers, mom, dad, brother, sister, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, reading the AA Big Book, which is very spiritual, incredible spiritual lessons in here. So if you want to hang out for a minute, it's really cool. The human aid can't do the trick. Okay. So what it's saying is we have two choices: to go on blotting out our consciousness of our intolerable life, or accept spiritual help, which I think truly is really the choice for any human being on earth. We can go on through our lives living in ego, living in materialism, living in people pleasing, a quest for money and all these things, or we can accept spiritual help and look at life through a different lens, a spiritual lens, and see what happens with that. We can always go back to the materialism and the rat race and all that stuff if it doesn't yield any positive results for us. But I would say, for any human, but especially in this case, we're talking to alcoholics, accept spiritual help. And we did this because we honestly wanted to, and we were willing to make the effort. Okay. So it's on you. If you're going to do this, no one's going to force you to do it. Okay. A certain American businessman had ability. Excuse me. So now it's going to give you a story, which I have written here, Roland Hazard. Um, Roland Hazard, which I believe brought the message to Ebby Thatcher, who then brought the message to Bill Wilson. Um, a certain American businessman had ability, good, and now I have to as I'm saying that, I don't know if that's 100% correct, but I think. Okay. Um, A certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character. For years, he had floundered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best known American psychiatrists. Then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of a celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Young. Carl Jung, who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him skeptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence. His physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. So, like Bill, self knowledge isn't enough. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for for his fall. So he returned to this doctor whom he admired and asked him point blank why he could not recover. He wished above all things to regain self control. He seemed quite rational and well balanced with respect to other problems, yet he had no control whatever over alcohol. Why was this? He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth, and he got it. In the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society, and he would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long. This was a great physician's opinion of this guy. All right. So imagine you go to a doctor, you're like, Doc, please help me. It's Carl Jung. He's like one of the most famous psychiatrists ever. And he's like, bro, you got to lock yourself up or hire a dude to, beat your ass every time you try to drink. That's my opinion. Otherwise, you're screwed, right? But this man still lives and is a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude. Some of our alcoholic readers may think that they can do without spiritual help. Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with this doctor. I love those lights too. I do. They're great. Thank you. The doctor said, you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you. Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. He said to the doctor, is there no exception? Yes, replied the doctor, there is. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are a phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding force of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begins to dominate them. In fact, I have been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description. And then for amplification, it says see Appendix 2. So it refers you back to the spiritual experience. Appendix in the back of the book. Um, so what Carl Jung, I mean, who's the most famous psychiatrist today? I can't think of one off the top of my head, but they are saying your only hope is this sudden spiritual experience. Like maybe people have like a near death experience, or, you know, you could find a ton of those if you look on YouTube, like near death accounts where people come back from a coma or, they were close to death and then they live and they go, you will not freaking believe what I experienced. And their whole life, their whole attitude, their whole conception of reality changes just like that in an instant. There's no work to be done, there's no effort. It's just a sudden change. Everything changes. That's what he's talking about as a spiritual experience. But he says here and there, every once in a while, like it's a phenomena. I don't know how to reproduce it. I don't know how to measure it. I don't know how to test it. There's no blind placebo control study we can do about a spiritual experience. Like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But he was saying, I've been trying to bring about something like that with you. Okay. And this is Carl Jung saying this to Roland Hazard. Okay. Who was a successful businessman, couldn't stop drinking. He had the money to go to Europe and meet with Dr. Carl Jung and try to figure out how to stop drinking. Okay. And that doctor, so he paid thousands of dollars to see this doctor. And the doctor's like, you're fucked. Like imagine that would suck. Okay. But he's saying a spiritual experience could change you. Um, Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that after all, he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary, vital spiritual experience. Here was the terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience, which, as we have already told you, made him a free man. So he had it. He was able to bring about the spiritual experience. We, in turn, sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works. So, what you want to do if you're new to the program, or you're reading for the first time, or you're reading for the 50th time, is you take design for living and you kind of you pop that out and put that in the back of your mind. Okay. Because we're not giving you religious commandments to do. We're not saying you have to do this or else. We're presenting a design for living that really works. Not a design for stopping drinking, not a design for stop being an asshole, a design for living that really works. It's a very important thing to kind of highlight and keep in your mind. It's a design for living. The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book, Varieties of Religious Experience, indicates a multitude of ways in which men have discovered God. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. Again, very important. The program of AA is the program of AA. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. Now, what you may run into, which is okay, live and let live if you run into this, but certain members of the fellowship of AA, members of AA, people you'll meet along the way, will try to kind of gently tell you there is one way. There is one particular, right? Name. Okay. Now, just okay, thank you. I really appreciate you talking to me and spending time, and then move on if that doesn't resonate with you. Okay. I've heard some people really go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about certain denominations and certain, religions and certain names of who we have to believe in. And whatever, man, that's okay. I let them go on their way because the program tells me, the program of AA, this book, which is largely unchanged since its original conception, tells me that AA, the program, has no desire to convince me that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. Okay, great. It tells me to choose my own conception. It repeats over and over and over God as I understand God, or whatever you want to call it, higher power, you know creative intelligence, spirit of nature. Bill earlier on gives you a bunch of names you can use, whatever works for you. The point is we want to start to develop a consciousness that involves this idea that there is something going on that's greater than me. Okay. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. As soon as you're willing and honest enough to try to develop a relationship with a loving creator, crazy shit's going to happen. It's going to be incredible, you know? And my hope for everyone in AA and outside of AA is to come to that crossroads in their life, where it's like I can continue going on the way I have been, or I can accept spiritual help for everybody. But in this particular case, we carry the message to alcoholics and practice this principles in all our affairs. So now this is what I love. Okay. So this was written in 1939 and or 38. It came out in 39. And that it tells you is largely unchanged since then. 39, 1939 in America, where we still had segregation, where the civil rights is like 20 years down the road. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. I love that, okay? Because AA was way ahead of its time. And I believe it somehow channeled the purest, universal spiritual truths that mankind has been craving and searching for and trying to answer since the beginning of time. I think it's all in here. Okay. Those having religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There is no friction among us over such matters. We think it no concern of ours what religious bodies our members identify themselves with as individuals. This should be an entirely personal affair, which each one decides for himself in the light of past associations or his present choice. Not all of us join religious bodies, but most of us favor such memberships. So it's saying, whatever religion you choose, go for it. If you don't choose a religion, fine. A lot of us do, but you don't have to. That's what it's saying. In the following chapter, there appears an explanation of alcoholism as we understand it, then a chapter addressed to the agnostic. Many who once were in this class are now among our members, meaning agnostics. People who like don't believe, but they don't not believe. They're kind of just like, whatever, right? Don't think about God all that much, right? Many who were once in that class, that type of person, are among our members. Surprisingly enough, we find such convictions no great obstacle to a spiritual experience. So you could say, I don't really believe in God. No problem. We have a program of action that can bring about a spiritual experience for you. But I don't believe in God. Yeah. How am I going to have a spiritual experience if I don't believe in God? Sure. Let's get to work on the 12 steps. There's only one way to find out. The proof is in the pudding. Further on, clear cut directions are given showing how we recovered. So, what inevitably happens as AA grew. Okay. We read it in I think the foreword to the second edition. You know, Rockefeller had a dinner, 2,000 inquiries came in. Later on, they printed an article or there was something in the Saturday Evening Post, and then 8,000 or, like the membership skyrocketed in a very short period of time. And what inevitably happens is people, you play the telephone game long enough, and at the end of that line, the message is completely different. It starts pure, and then just through the process of human consciousness and recollection and memory and retelling, it gets changed, it gets shifted, it gets, slightly altered to where by the end of that, it's completely a different message. Okay. Further on, right, it's saying clear cut directions are given showing how we recovered. And that's why they produced this book in 1939, because as they were growing, they realized like it's just inevitable that as the group pops up in Arkansas and Florida and Canada and Japan, like as all these groups are popping up, the telephone game is going to happen. And our pure message, the things the first 100 did to recover from alcoholism, they're going to get, it's just going to change. Okay. So we want to be sure that we can preserve the true, unadulterated message of alcohol, of what we did the first 100. So they're putting it into a book in text and it's largely unchanged. This first 164 is pretty much the same. Okay. The stories and all that are what changed in the back of the book to better reflect the fellowship in modern times. Okay. So that's what they're saying. Further on, clear cut directions are giving showing how we recovered. How Bill and Bob and Bill Dotson, one, two, and three, recovered from this when the world did not know about it yet. What did they do? It's here. Then what the other members did until there was roughly 100 people that had recovered and the drink problem was solved for them. They put it in this book. It's exactly the same as it was. So you read this book to find out how to recover from alcoholism and how to have a spiritual experience. Even if you don't have a problem with alcohol and you want to have a spiritual experience, just for shits and giggles, each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he or she established his relationship with God. So that's the main purpose of their stories. Because what came first, the chicken or the egg? My relationship with God or the obsession to drink was lifted? Well, the obsession to drink was lifted, and then God came into my life, or God came into my life, and then the obsession was lifted. It's like perfectly blended. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's a silly thing to spend time thinking about. Did God bring me to AA, or did AA bring me to God? Who cares, dude? The things I'm getting out of this are so incredible. It doesn't matter. Yes, sure, great, whatever. Yes. Okay. Each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his point of view the way he established his relationship with God. He or she or they or whatever, right? How a human being developed their relationship with God. So that's the point of the stories. You know, these give a fair cross section of our membership and a clear cut, again, clear cut idea of what has actually happened in their lives. We hope no one will consider these self revealing accounts in bad taste. Our hope is that many alcoholic men and women desperately in need will see these pages, and we believe that it is only by fully disclosing ourselves and our problems that they will be persuaded to say, yes, I am one of them too. I must have this thing. Okay. There is a solution. And then the next chapter 3 is more about alcoholism. So I love that, man. You know, because like I think as a human being, what else are we looking for other than a spiritual experience or relationship with whatever it is? God. I mean, I say God because it's just one simple 3 letter word and I know what it means. If that bothers somebody, that's fine. Okay. Call it whatever you want to call it. It's okay. But as a human being, there's gotta be there, you know, one thing religious and scientific people can agree is that there's way more going on in this reality and in this existence than we can see. There's way more going on. Whether you're a religious person or a scientist, they'll both agree on that. There's way more going on than we can see and touch and taste. But what is that thing that's going on? What is it? So science will tell you it's quarks and neutrinos, and even they call it the God particle when they get down to it. Um, and religious people call it God or spirituality or whatever. So as a human? Do we want to get down to the 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 nitty gritty of what this existence is about? What else are we doing here? You know, trying to trade stocks and fucking make $700 billion? Sure, you know, for some people that's what they do, and that's okay. You know, for me, I would like to know who and what I am and what I stand for in life, and then stand for that no matter what. I want to be available to protect and serve my innermost circle, my family, and then my friends, my neighborhood, my town, my community. I want to be in a position to be of service so that inevitably when the time comes, I'm there. I'm fully conscious. I know what's happening. I know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, and I can extend myself to others in a spirit of, love and kindness. And that was impossible for me to do as a younger person and when I was drinking. And if I was drinking today, I'd probably be dead at this point at the rate I was going. So that's it. There is a solution. I hope that makes some sense.